Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. So, my mother-in-law is not that typical crazy mother-in-law, but she always manages to piss me off now and then. I have to admit that she is a sensible and decent woman, but has her own rules which rarely bother us. My mother-in-law is a retired teacher, and you can imagine how strict and unruly she could turn at times. When my husband told her that he was moving in with me, she told me that he was not responsible at all and I should just leave him as his parents' place. She told me that he was a clumsy and messy person and would not even iron his own clothes for the office. According to her, he was a spoilt brat and I should not try him. I and my husband were head over heels in love with each other and could not wait to move in together to stay with each other all the time. My husband moved in with me after a couple of weeks, and to be honest, he was not as troubling as my mother-in-law had told me. We loved living together and everything was perfect. My mother-in-law came to visit us after some time and inspected the whole house. She told me that she thought her son was the only messy person, but I was the same too. She also said that that's why we felt like soulmates. She then gave a long lecture on cleanliness and literally started cleaning the kitchen. I told her that I would do that myself, but she did not listen to me. We got married after a couple of months, and my mother-in-law threw a dinner party, and I was helping her set the tables. She told me that she could do it all by herself, as I was a clumsy person and would break something. I told her that I was not at all clumsy or messy, and it was just because I was a busy person and had to manage work and the house. She told me that it was a lame excuse, as she had worked her whole life and still managed to maintain the cleanliness of the house. I did not say anything else, and the dinner was served shortly after that. My mother-in-law's cousin told her that the food was delicious and that my mother-in-law was known for her clean and spotless kitchen. My mother-in-law told her that she was sad that no one else was going to keep her legacy intact, that I was not at all grateful. She also told her that my kitchen smelt bad, and she was almost going to vomit while she was cleaning it. I felt really bad, but didn't say anything. My mother-in-law called my husband and asked him if he could pay my mother-in-law's electricity bill, as she was saving money for something. My husband told her that she could save money later and manage her bills as they were important. He also told her that it was difficult for him to pay the bills as he was already contributing to the expenses of our house and was also paying installments for his car. My mother-in-law asked him why he was contributing to the expenses of our house, as the house belonged to me, and I was the one responsible to manage its expenses. My husband told her that even if it was my house, we both shared it, and being a husband, it was his responsibility to manage the expenses. My mother-in-law was not convinced and told him that it was senseless to move out and pay for a space when he already could stay at her place. My husband told her that he had not rented a place, but was living with his wife, and that is how things work. But my mother-in-law could not understand. My mother-in-law kept calling my husband, but he told her that he was not going to pay the bill. My mother-in-law asked him if he could help her save some money, at least if he was not going to pay the bill. I was literally stunned. I talked to her and told her that we did not have any extra money. My mother-in-law made an issue out of that. She asked how it was possible that we did not have extra money when both of us were earning and did not even have kids. She showed up the next day and told my husband that she never thought twice before spending on him, and she only got excuses in return. She vented for a while and then left. We thought that the drama ended, but she called my husband the next day and told him that he had to pay her electricity bill or she was going to disown him. This made my husband upset, and he told me that he was going to pay her bill from the money we had saved for the honeymoon, and we could go on the honeymoon a month later. I was so pissed and could not decide what to do. I took the amount and went to my mother-in-law's place. When she opened the door, I threw the notes at her face and told her that she was the meanest mom and did not deserve a family. AITA? My mother-in-law could not take that disrespect and told my husband that I slapped her and then threw the money at her face. I told my husband that she was lying and I could never do that to her. He asked why would his mom lie. My husband was really upset with me and told me that he never expected that from me. I told him that I also never expected that his mom was going to financially abuse us. He said that it was not abuse at all and she had a right to his money. I reminded him that we both had contributed and were saving the money for the honeymoon, and she could just let us alone. My mother-in-law showed up and told my husband that she had brought the money back and she would not take a penny from us. She kept whimpering and put up her best acting. My husband, of course, consoled her and told her that she was going to take the money and also that I was going to apologize for what I had done. I told them that it was never going to happen and they could sort it out on their own. I left the house and went for the grocery. And when I came back, my mother-in-law was gone and, of course, had taken the money. There is an update, guys. My mother-in-law made my husband pay her bills for about 4 months. And of course, she did that by emotionally blackmailing him. Also, as she had pretended that I had slapped her, it was much easier for her to get the money from us. My best friend is my husband's cousin, and we came across each other through her. We do not see each other that frequently as we both became busy in our lives. Yesterday, she sent photos of her and her family along with my mother-in-law vacationing in Florida in the WhatsApp family group. I asked her when they had planned the trip, as we had no idea about that. She told me that it was my mother-in-law's plan and she was the one who made the major contribution in saving for the trip. I could not believe that. As my husband was already in that group, I told him to go through it. My husband was as amazed as I was. I then told him that it was all my mother-in-law's plan, and that was why she was saving money. She made us pay her bills from the savings we had for our honeymoon, while she saved her own money to go on vacation with her family. My husband was pissed and called his mom, but she did not attend any calls. We are waiting for her to return. So my mother-in-law came back and stayed at her sister's place, my best friend's mom, to avoid us. She knew we were not going to create any drama at their house. My husband called her and told her that she had to come back to her place or we were going to see her at her sister's place. He also told her that she could not then blame us for disrespecting us. My mother-in-law did not listen to us and stayed at her sister's place. We were, of course, pissed and planned to see her there. I and my husband went there, and my husband's aunt told us that my mother-in-law was not at home. We managed to get in, and then my best friend came out of her room and asked what was going on. I told her the whole story, and she could not believe that. She told us that my mother-in-law was upstairs, and she had no idea why my mother-in-law was avoiding us. My BFF went upstairs and brought my mother-in-law down. On asking what she had done, she told me that it was my mistake. She said that she was saving for our honeymoon and had only taken help from us, but when I slapped her, she could not take it and planned to go on a trip with her family instead. I told her that she was lying, and why would she even care for our honeymoon? She said that I had always misunderstood her and never accepted her as a family member. I then told everyone that I never slapped her, and she had made that story just to gain sympathies and get money out of us. My husband told his aunt what was going on and how we were paying her bills while she was planning a trip. I told my mother-in-law that she was going to repay us, and if she did not, I was going to get the police involved. She yelled at me and said that I could not do that, and there was nothing wrong if her son paid a few of her bills. I told her that she was right, but she took that money and kept us in the dark about what was going on, and that was fraud. My mother-in-law did not take me seriously, but when I sent her a photo of me being at a police station a day later, she told us that she was going to repay us. NTA, OP did what her mother-in-law deserved, and I cannot believe how mother-in-law managed to do all that. OP should have kept a distance from the day her mother-in-law tried to bully her at the dinner party. Mother-in-law was just jealous and mean, who wanted her shares from the money OP and her husband earned hard. Why these mother-in-laws are so brainless? NTA, sorry to say, but mother-in-law was not decent at all. Decent ladies do not pull such stunts, especially against their own kids. OP's mother-in-law was an a-hole, and OP should have filed a complaint already. OP's mother-in-law had no plan for OP's honeymoon, of course, and was planning a trip for herself. Mother-in-law should be blocked in every way. I've had a long engagement with my fiancé. Got engaged December 2019. We were supposed to get married in 2021, but you can understand why that couldn't happen. So our wedding happened this past weekend. One of my best friends was supposed to attend as a bridesmaid, but she skipped last minute because of an emergency. To be honest, I was mad that she skipped because the emergency happened almost a week ago. So she had time to figure things out and attend. So what happened was that her fiance got in a car accident and was hospitalized. He was hospitalized for 5 days, and on Friday, he got discharged to go home. My friend had told me from the moment he got into the accident that he'll skip the wedding just to be sure, and I told her we'll see. So when I saw that he got discharged on Friday, I expected my friend to show up at the wedding. After all, since his situation is not as dangerous right now, and I texted her, but she said that she'll not be able to make it. She kept saying how he's still not well and being discharged doesn't mean that he can stay alone without care for many hours. And since my wedding day would start at 9 a.m. on Saturday with the preparations, etc., the ceremony would be at 7 p.m. on Saturday evening and the reception party would last until Sunday morning, hours that she couldn't be away from home for that long. And she said that she could compromise if she could only attend the ceremony. I said I don't want her there just for the ceremony, and she's a bridesmaid and supposed to be by my side the entire time. I also said that she should find him some care for the day so that she can freely attend the wedding, and I suggested inviting either her parents or a friend to stay with him for that day. His parents live far away. She said it's not the same, and she won't feel right being away for the entire day. I got pretty upset because she seemed to totally disregard my wedding after so long making preparations, and while I understand it's her fiancé, I was mad that she didn't find a compromise to attend. She claims her compromise would be to just attend the ceremony and then go home again, but she's a bridesmaid. If she's not there for the full experience, it would be pointless. She said I'm an AH for making her feel guilty about caring for her hurt fiancé, and she said that his situation takes priority over my wedding. She said she's not sorry for prioritizing her SO's health over me at this point, and if I was a good friend, I'd understand instead of guilt-tripping her, and that I better not complain if I'm ever in a difficult situation and I need my husband's help and support, and he chooses to attend someone's wedding over caring for his wife. AITA? YTA. 1. She did find a compromise. It just wasn't good enough for you. 2. She didn't skip last minute. She gave you at least 5 days' notice. 3. His situation, which is his health and recovery, actually does take priority over a wedding reception. I specifically say reception because she agreed to attend the ceremony, which is realistically the part where you actually get married. YTA and very selfish. Her fiancé was in an accident and injured enough to be hospitalized. You don't even seem to care about how terrifying all that was for your supposed friend. She would have been distracted and anxious your whole wedding, worrying about him probably. If it was your husband who just got out of hospital, would you feel the same way? So, my wife and I adopted our niece this year. She's been in our custody for nearly a year and a half full-time and off and on the previous 2 years. She just turned 13. My daughter has lived with her bio-paternal grandmother since she was about 2 years old. In that time, she had no father figure, and her grandma refused to let her see her as a mother figure. My daughter was desperate for parental figures. When she first came to stay with us long-term back in 2019, she asked, "Can I call you dad and mom?" At just 9 years old. We let her, but she would call her bio mom, and her bio dad just by his first name. She had no real relationship with either of them. They spent time in prison, and even when they were not in prison, they mostly ignored her. When we got custody, my sister-in-law came out of the woodwork. I think that she was hopeful that if we got custody away from grandma, then she could get custody from us. The problem is, she still likes the meth, and she still has a long, unresolved criminal record, no permanent address, etc. We got custody easy from grandma, and then we asked for adoption per daughter's request. Our lawyer gave sister-in-law 2 options: sign over parental rights or prove in court that you should continue to have them despite my daughter's desire to be adopted. As part of the agreement, we set up for my sister-in-law to call daughter regularly. She usually calls Sundays for a while, first talking to my wife for 30 minutes to an hour, then asking for my daughter. She spends about 90% of that call talking about herself and often doesn't even ask daughter how she's doing. The problem comes in that sister-in-law refers to herself as mom, her husband of barely a year, stepdad. His estranged children my daughter has never met as her step-siblings, and my wife and I as aunt and uncle. But the adoption has happened by every meaningful way. I am dad, my wife is mom, and bio-mom is now aunt, at best, and her husband is just that, her husband. His kids are of no relation at all. I have asked her multiple times to stop using these terms and to use the correct ones. It annoys my daughter and is usually the catalyst of her just walking away from the call. She has tried to correct my sister-in-law, but she refuses to change her ways. So now I just hang up. My daughter rarely actually wants to talk to her and will often just leave the room mid-conversation. When she does, I just end the call or let my wife pick up. My wife thinks I'm being too harsh, but I have no patience for this person, her boundary stomping, and neither does my daughter. My wife thinks I'm an a-hole for not reminding sister-in-law every time and giving her a warning. I say she's had enough warnings. NTA, this is not you being harsh. This is you protecting your daughter's boundaries while she is still a vulnerable minor. I appreciate that this is difficult for your wife to be in the middle of, but since she has committed to being this child's mother, then she needs to act like one and put your daughter's feelings ahead of your sister-in-law's. This adult woman knows perfectly well that she is not supposed to do this, so she doesn't need a reminder. She needs consequences. NTA a million times over NTA. The egg donor lost that right years ago. Unfortunately, lots of bio parents don't age the child year by year. I was 23 years old giving birth to kiddo number 3, and my egg donor was still treating me like I was a little kid. She lost me at 3 weeks old, had limited contact until age 2, then no contact until age 15. To her, I was still her baby girl. Forcing a relationship on a teenager is just going to cause major resentment issues, especially one who has been treated as awful as your daughter. She will remember everything you did to help her, and the resentment will be towards your wife, not you. It sounds like you are doing everything you can to stand up for her and her wants and needs. Any therapy or counseling for each family member, even support groups in your area, can greatly help. It sounds like your wife is a good mom. She just needs a lot of help in standing up to awful family, and therapists can help her with that. You're doing great, Dad. And once again, NTA.